understand that researchers have been looking into whether the COVID vaccination is as effective in people with CLL. What can you tell us about that, the research?
Sure. I think everyone knew this was going to be an important question. We've known for a long time that with CLL, responses to vaccines in general aren't as good as some of the normal population. So there have been a whole host of studies over the years where patients didn't quite respond as well to flu vaccines or pneumonia vaccines. Nonetheless, we typically recommend standard vaccinations because there can be some degree of response. And our testing isn't always perfect in terms of how well vaccines work. So when it typically is felt to be a relatively safe procedure, it's something we typically recommend. More recently, we looked at studies of the shingles vaccine, and actually that works better than perhaps the flu shot, for example, because patients probably were previously exposed to that virus earlier in life. And when they get vaccinated, it's a recall response, which is a little bit easier for the immune system. So that brings us up to the COVID vaccines, which is obviously critically important and on everyone's mind. And the data is still early, but what we've learned so far is that like what we might have predicted, our patients, the CLL patients, don't respond as well to the mRNA-based COVID vaccines. So in the media, we saw in the larger 20 and 40,000 patient studies that maybe 95% of patients didn't experience infection. So it looks like in the general population, those vaccines work very well. In a cohort of 160 some CLL patients who were vaccinated early on in Israel, it looked like maybe about 40% of patients responded. For the patients who hadn't previously been treated, but had measurable CLL, maybe about half of patients responded adequately in terms of generating antibodies. So kind of a flip of a coin. For patients who had been treated and were in remission for more than a year, we'll say, the responses were better, maybe 80% or so. For patients who were on active treatment, even our novel treatments like the BTK inhibitors or venetoclax, the BCL2 inhibitor, the responses were pretty poor, 18 or so percent. So you can see for patients with active disease, the responses are impaired. For those that are in remission, a little better. For those who are on active treatment, the antibody responses aren't very good. So I honestly think this is important information, but tell patients don't lose hope. It's still important to take the precautions, some degree of wearing masks and social distancing. They will be better protected if their friends and family around them are vaccinated. And they still may respond to some degree. It's not like the vaccines aren't working at all. It's just that the responses aren't quite as good as the general population. So again, another long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps patients understand some of the limitations in vaccinations, but also that generally things are getting safer in that they still can venture out in society, but still have to take some precautions.